Have you ever been so into something that you haven't realised what's going on in the room around you? Maybe you've been reading a book or playing a video game or playing with your toys, and you turn around and all of a sudden there's someone there and you jump out of your skin. And then when you get over the shock, you all have a good laugh because you realise there is nothing to be afraid of. What if when you turned around there was an angel there? How cool would that be? Or maybe you would feel a little bit frightened. But before we get to that part of the story, remember last week we heard at the end of that story that there was peace in the land for 40 years. Well, guess what happened? God's people did what was wrong in God's eyes again. And so God allowed them to be ruled by some people called the Midianites. The Midianites made life terrible for God's people. They would come and take all of their animals, and they would take all of their food, and they made life really hard. The Israelites were afraid of the Midianites because they were so powerful and so cruel, and there were so many of them. So they ran to the mountains where they hid in caves and safe places. This was a terrible time for God's people. And eventually they cried out to God for help. God, save us, help us. I wonder if you've ever faced something that's been really difficult. You know, the best thing that you can do is ask God to help. Maybe there's a person and you find your relationship with them really tricky. Maybe you'd even say they're not my friend, they're my enemy. Do you know what the Bible says? It tells us to love our enemies and to pray for people who mistreat us. That's really hard. But God is strong and powerful, and He can help us to do that. It might not change the other person too much, maybe it will, but it will certainly change us. Try it and see how amazing and powerful God is. Well, God heard the cry of His people, the Israelites. So come with me, because there's a man, and he's called Gideon, and he's managed to grow some wheat, and he's hiding from the Midianites because he doesn't want them to take it, but he's getting it ready to be made into food. And all of a sudden, there beside him is an angel. And he says to Gideon, "Greetings, mighty warrior, the Lord is with you." Mighty warrior? Gideon's terrified. He's hiding from the Midianites. He doesn't want them to find him with his wheat. This angel is God Himself. And he says to Gideon, "You are going to be the one who delivers my people from the Midianites." God is with Gideon, literally right there. He's right beside him. But the Midianites, they're ready for battle. There are so many of them. 135,000 people ready to attack. Gideon takes some convincing, but he calls together an army of people from the Israelites. He has 32,000 people. That's one Israelite for every 4 Midianites. How will they ever win this battle? God looks at Gideon's army and He says, "Gideon, you've got too many people. I don't want the people to brag that they have won this battle. This is God's battle, and He's the powerful one. He's the one who's going to win the battle." So He says to Gideon, "Tell the men who are frightened with their knees knocking together that they can leave." Do you know what? There were 32,000 people, but 22,000 people left the army. So now Gideon only has 10,000 soldiers who go back to their tents. God looks at Gideon's army and he says, Gideon, your army's still too big. Too big? We only have 10,000 people and there are 135,000 Midianites. God says, I want you to take the people, your army, to the river and ask them to drink. I wonder how you drink when you don't have a cup. Well, some of these men knelt by the river and they scooped the water up into their hands and then they drank it like dogs, licking it with their tongues. Some other men, they knelt right down and drank the water directly out of the river. And God said, those are the people to send home. Well, Gideon had 10,000 people, but now with the people he had to send home, he had only 300 people. 1, 2, 3. How could they ever win this battle? Well, they couldn't in their own strength, but God was with them. 100 men, 200 men, 300 men in total. And each person got a trumpet and a clay jar with a burning, flaming torch inside. And Gideon said to his army, watch me and copy what I do. So the 3 groups surrounded the Midianites on each side. And when the time was right, Gideon blew his trumpet and all the Israelites blew their trumpets too. And they broke their clay jars and smashed them and shouted, a sword for the Lord and Gideon. Do you know what happened? The Midianites were so confused that they started to fight one another. And that day, Gideon and his army, with God's help, won the battle. I wonder what the difficult situation is that you are fighting. Something that seems a problem that is impossible for you to solve. Why don't you ask God this week for his help and see what he can do? Maybe he'll bring someone else into your life who can help you and give you some good advice. Maybe he'll help you to understand that thing that seems so difficult to understand. Maybe he'll help you to be patient and kind and loving. Maybe he'll help you to overcome your fear and not be afraid of that thing anymore as you realize that he is with you and he is strong and powerful. Try it this week. Ask God for his help. Remember that the God who helped Gideon to win the battle is the same God today, and he can help you too. Now let's see what activity we are going to do today. It will be... what's in the box? Heather has got something really fab to show us, to help us to understand this story of Gideon. Pop on and watch that now, and then we'll see you again next week.